There we go. You got me now? 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 How about 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 now? Son of a bitch. Check, check, check. It's working. All right. Uh didn't turn the mic on. Sorry, this is a late night show. Wasn't intended to do anything, but I'm a college football guy. Love college football. John bet a lot on the game. I've been saying for a month I think Washington's going to win the national championship. I was feeling it. I'm just wide awake, but I was feeling it when last ride for the Pac-12. I've done Sirius XM Pac-12 radio for a long time, for many years. For those of you who may not know, and I'm wide awake right now. It's after 10 p.m. on January 1st. Might be up later right now than I was New Year's Eve, maybe. I got to give a Tito's toast to Steve Sarkisian for a second. I thought his team was done. I thought they were going to fold. I thought they were going to lose by 21 points. I thought they should have been done 31-10. And they hung around. They made Washington earn it, and Washington just about choked it. I was just texting and tweeting and DMing people. Kalen DeBoer, he has no flaws. He's unflappable. He can't be stopped. And then they almost had, I was just thinking about it at the end of the game, like prisoner of the moment. Felt like was going to be one of the biggest choke jobs in major college football. I thought Harbaugh today was going to choke away the Rose Bowl. Like I thought it'd be crazy for him to lose to Saban. And then I thought Washington was going to choke it away. But I've watched a lot of Washington football this year. I don't know how many of you guys watch college football. If you're here, maybe you're a big college football fan. I watched a ton of Washington football this year. And I can tell you that Washington played a ton of games that ended very dramatically. Like you look at them and you see Kalen DeBoer you see Ryan Grubb, the OC, you see Michael Penix just drilling these big throws. And you're like, oh, they're going to win this game by 21. They haven't won a game by 21 since like September. I don't understand it. Michael Penix was like 79% today, almost 500 yards passing. He had 255 passing at the half. He was dealing. And I don't know what happened at the end of that game. Well, I'll tell you what happened. They got a little arrogant with the play. It felt like they could do whatever they wanted with the pass, and then they tried to do too much. Not kneeling on the ball on third down at the end of the game, running the ball with Dylan Johnson. We'll see. Tito's toast to recovering a yeah, well, a sober toast. I'll take this one for him. But we'll see with Dylan Johnson how he is. I still think they're going to win the national championship. I still think they're going to beat Michigan. And the reason I think they're going to beat Michigan is similar. One of the reasons I thought they'd beat Texas. I just thought Texas would not play as clean a game as them. And I'll admit, I was kind of feeling it. Like Washington's playing a perfect game. This is what they do. They're really dialed in when it comes to the analytics. They're really dialed in when it comes to team discipline. Like they know how to manage all these late game situations against Arizona State, against Oregon State, against Oregon, like on and on and on. This is what they do. And they almost gave it away. Quinn Ewers, I watched all four games or all four teams today, both games. I think there's like one good, one excellent, one good, one really good quarterback in the Final Four of college football, and that was Penix. Quinn Ewers is fine. He's a fine college quarterback. J.J. McCarthy's a fine college quarterback. Milroe, I don't think you could lose to him. But Michael Penix is the guy. Like he is head and shoulders above the rest of the guys, which rarely, in the NFL, you don't get to the Final Four and you're like, yeah, there's one good quarterback here. But a lot of arguing over Michael Penix today as that game was unfolding about whether or not he's a first round pick. I think so. Sark's team was kind of looked like Michigan from the jump. Michigan was rattled at the beginning of their game. J.J. McCarthy almost threw a pick and just looked bad. And, Alabama just couldn't score enough. Texas, they looked rattled early, made a ton of mistakes, a ton of false starts. Like Washington's D-line was yelling at the referees to call false starts all game long. So Texas was not totally in it, but you talk to college football people a lot, as I do. The one thing they say about Sark at Texas is like Texas used to be known as the place where kind of five-star not used to be like in the old Colt McCoy days, but since then, kind of, it's where the 5-star divas go and the 4-star divas. And they're going to be highly ranked when it comes to recruiting classes, but it's not going to translate. And you got to give Sark credit. Like, his team's tough. Those dudes hit. They play the run really well. They play hard. It just they need a little more elevated quarterback play. They had to make fewer mistakes. But I think Michigan's going to be in that same boat. I don't think Michigan's going to pound Washington. I don't think Michigan is buttoned down enough to play Washington that way, and kind of run away from them. I don't think they're talented enough offensively to run away from them. Now, if Dylan Johnson's out, that's going to be a problem. But how about Texas? These coaches are insane. Coaches are nuts. Like, they spend all this time coming up with everything they can possibly come up with to fool the other team, to trick the other team, to deceive the other team. And then they put a guy back on kick return that has a cast on. Did you guys see that? Texas had 2 straight kick returns from a guy with a cast, not like kind of a cast, like a full-on big-ass arm cast. It went from his elbow, covers his hand, covers his 4 fingers, and then individually covers his thumb, which I don't know the difference between why you get the club and why you get the 4 fingers and the thumb cover. I don't know that it doesn't give you any more grip. I don't know. Maybe it does. But that was a major detail oversight by the Texas Longhorns. I couldn't believe it. What happened? He fumbled 2 kickoffs. You can go to my Instagram, Guy Haberman, or on Twitter, Guy Haberman. I've got a couple videos there. Here's just a photo. I didn't have time to look at his left arm. Look at that. That is a cast. That's a cast on his arm. Okay, that's insane. These guys they had a month to prepare, and they got a guy back there with a cast on. So that was one crazy thing that happened. The other thing, very interesting at the end. If I were a coach, this is a detail I would coach up. Everybody on my sideline would be coached up that when we have the ball and the clock is not in our favor, if our quarterback throws the ball to the sideline, it's your job to hit the ball, to touch the ball. Texas, that last play, that felt like Niners. That felt like you're going to test me with a sorry ass receiver. That's what that throw at the end of the game was. How that bad of a throw with 1 second left to go to the national championship game, and you basically throw it out of bounds. Credit to Washington for bringing the heat on defense. But the clock stops when you throw the ball out of bounds. The play before the last play, when they had 1 second left, the reason they had 1 second left was because Quinn Ewers threw it out of bounds. He threw it right at the ball boy, and the ball boy hit it. He actually caught it, but he touched it. The clock stops only when it hits something out of bounds. So that's why when you see a team trying to run the clock out, one thing they'll do is they'll run around and they'll throw the ball out of bounds, and they'll throw it as high as they'll like throw it all the way to the sideline. They'll throw it high, and out of bounds, they'll have it like going to the stands. And the reason is the clock doesn't stop until that ball hits something. So if you can get, if you could get 5 seconds of airtime, you're going to run 5 seconds until that ball hits. So Texas actually had that last play only because that ball hit the ball boy right in the chest. He caught it. If he doesn't touch that ball or it doesn't hit him, it's going to travel for another second, and the clock's going to expire, and they don't even get the last play. And then Washington, their defense, the fact that they brought heat repeatedly at the end, it was very impressive. But oh my God, that was almost a choke. I did see Harbaugh had the muffed punts today. Special teams, it seems like every college football coach has taken on Kyle Shanahan's philosophy on special teams, which is, I don't care. And that's not even a joke, because if you go look at most college football staffs, and I didn't look at Texas, I did see Harbaugh's special teams coach's son. I don't know if Texas has a special teams coach or not. Most of these programs now don't have dedicated special teams coaches, and they have multiple coaches kind of handle the responsibilities. So they'll have, the safeties coach also handles punt return. The running backs coach also handles punt cover. The linebacker coach handles kick return, and the head coach handles kick cover, or something like that. Like, they'll divvy up the duties. And and they just, it's a way for them to spend money on something else. They'll spend that instead of a special teams coach, they'll spend that money on, another um, analyst or something like that. So they don't value it. I mean, they tell us they don't value it by where they spend their money, and then you watch these games and you go, this doesn't look like they care about it. Daniel on the stream says, "Do the Niners have a dedicated special teams coach?" You can hardly tell. Yeah, the Niners do have a dedicated special teams coach, but their head coach doesn't really care that much. Michael Penix in the game was 29 of 38 for 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. That's a 76% completion percentage. Quinn Ewers, 24 of 43, 56%. Michael Penix, I have a Heisman vote. Okay. I voted for Michael Penix for the Heisman. Jaden Daniels had a great year, but he didn't play in any games like that. He didn't play in any of these types of games. He played in good games, but he didn't play in games that were for championships. And Michael Penix, Dante says, looks like a lefty Stroud. He's kind of like I don't know if he's like a taller Tua with a better arm. Which is a good, a taller Tua with a better arm. He is, I don't think on a lot of people's draft boards in terms of as a first rounder. Doesn't seem like it, at least. There are legitimate concerns about injuries. They showed the graphic on the screen today. It was eye-opening for me when he came to Washington to do a deep dive on him and learn that he's had 4 seasons end. He had 4 straight seasons before he came to Washington end due to injury. He's been in college football for 6 years. So he's an older player with an injury history. But I think one thing you saw, a lot of people saw today, if you hadn't been watching him all year, and I've watched every game he's played in the last 2 years at Washington, okay? He's more athletic than people realize. You throw a knee brace on somebody and it's just always going to make them look a little less athletic. But I did not feel like Texas got a sack today. And, he's playing behind a very good offensive line. They won the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line. But I don't think I'm looking through these stats here. Did they sack him? No, he did not get sacked. And it wasn't because he had a clean pocket all the time. It was because he was very good at getting out of trouble against that Texas defensive front. So, I was arguing with a lot of people today about him. Not arguing with a lot of people, but a lot of people were impressed today too. So I understand it. When you have the injury history he has and you've played college football for 6 years, I get it. But there are just going to be a lot of every year there are first round quarterbacks that are scrubs compared to this guy. His accuracy is off the charts. He was 66% this year, but he throws the ball deep a ton. So he's 66%, like making a ton of big time pro throws. And I would even say like plus pro throws. I mean, he throws it deep more than a lot of pro quarterbacks probably do. I think he's got a top 10, maybe a top 5 deep ball as an NFL quarterback right now. He'd be one of the best deep ball throwers in the league. And it's easy to say, and I understand it, like, oh, well, he plays with NFL receivers. Rome Odunze is going to be a top 12 pick, maybe top 10. I mean, Rome Odunze, I was talking to a buddy who played wide receiver in the NFL today, and he said Rome Odunze is going to be a Pro Bowler right away, like probably within 2 years, if not his rookie year. So, I've heard a Devontae comp for him. Devontae's the size. I don't know if the size matches up, but I think the beauty of watching a guy. So what if he plays with NFL receivers? He's going to play with NFL receivers at the next level. So I think for example, you put Michael Penix on the Vikings with Justin Jefferson. That's Seattle with DK. Like, I think those guys would be really good fits. And then you factor in, like, those are not one receiver offenses. They've got multiple guys. Both those teams, both the Vikings and the Seahawks, those are fits. Somebody said to me, Denver, sure. Atlanta, sure. Like, I think you give them a good offensive coach and a couple good weapons. And, I mean, I think Atlanta. I think there's a lot of landing spots for him. Hell, you know who would like him? I think is Shanahan. Uh, like if you told me that everybody's correct and Penix is going to tumble because of injury history and age, which I don't think is going to happen, he's going to go beat Michigan. I'd go like, how far would Penix have to fall for Shanahan to draft him? And my answer would be third round. If he was like back end of the third round comp pick, I think he'd take him. And I would support it. I mean, you're going to take like injured tight ends that you're never going to see at the end of the third round. You might as well take Michael Penix. So, I mean, I think the other criticism of him is just like fundamentally the same. He gets like an air raid quarterback kind of criticism. Like it's not going to be this easy in the NFL. He's got a coach that creates all this space. He's got multiple elite receivers. Jalen McMillan's the other guy who didn't play most of the year. Like him and Rome Odunze were supposed to be like a 1-2 punch. And McMillan didn't play most of the year, got hurt early, came back in the Pac-12 championship game, played great, played well today. What did he do today? Where are these receiver numbers? I didn't even look. I barely looked at the numbers. So Odunze 6 for 125, McMillan 5 for 58, touchdown. Jalen Polk 5 for 122. Tight end Westover was good. Yeah, they spread it around. So I think like if you're arguing with people, if you love Penix and you wonder what the criticisms of him are, injury, age. Some people say athleticism. I think he's more than athletic enough, and that people worry that it's going to be a little air raidy. The air raid guys don't translate to the league, but this guy, if you watch him, he's not making these wide open air raid throws. He is fitting it in very tight windows. If you only watch Michael Penix in the Sugar Bowl against Texas, I'm here to tell you that what he looked like in that game is how he looks. You go watch any Washington game this year, exception of the ASU game. ASU had him on the ropes, was going to beat him. And in the red zone, they threw an end zone interception that Washington took back for a pick six. That was the only score of the game. And what ASU did in that game was they really pressured. But Matthew, I like you, but let's see what Washington can do against the defense. Go blue. Yeah, you give me $5. I like you too. I appreciate that, Matthew. I don't think Harbaugh's quarterback is good enough. I thought, full disclosure though, I thought Harbaugh was going to lose to Saban today. My pre-championship, my pre-weekend prediction on how this was going to play out was Washington, Alabama in the national championship game, and that Washington would win that game too. I didn't think Harbaugh would beat Saban with a month to prepare. I thought Saban with a month to prepare was going to be too tough for Jim. I didn't think Jim would take it. I didn't think they'd scheme it up the way that I'm just trying to find that box score. The way that Saban would. Saban's, offensively, they just. Even though the play at the end, you look at the replay. I hated that play call at the end, and then it turns out you look at it should have worked. What was Milroe today? 16 of 23, 116, 116 passing yards today. McCarthy threw for 221. Alabama was 4 yards a carry. Michigan was 4 yards a carry. I think Alabama, to me, watching that game today, Alabama's defense looked like the bigger problem. From a Washington standpoint, I thought that would have been a worse matchup than Michigan. I know, and it made it a little tough at the end to just throw all the love at Kalen DeBoer with no reservation as I had, because they did not manage into that game well. But I just think Kalen DeBoer is going to prove to be he's proving, and I think he's going to ultimately prove to be a big-time, big game coach, a very good big game coach. The fourth down they went for and got early in the game. Well, not early in the game, early-ish. Everybody, the TV guys were like, oh, you can't run it up the middle. You can't run it up the middle. Ran it up the gut. Well, was it their own 27-yard line, 4th and 1? So I think he's going to outmanage Harbaugh at minimum. And then I think his quarterback's better. I think his receivers are better. We'll see about the running back. But they didn't, it took them a while to get they ran the ball 3 yards a carry today. They did not run the ball great. A lot of people felt like in order for Washington to win, they'd have to run it better than that. They didn't run it great, but I'll give them some credit here, even though they didn't manage it well late. They did kind of just stick to it, and the pass game was there for them. So um, I still like Washington. I think DeBoer is just going to be better in this game than Harbaugh. Daniel asked that last run up the middle. What did you like about the play? No, I hated the play, and then I watched the replay. And when you watch the replay, you see three things happen. The snap is bad. The right tackle gets demolished. And then Milrow, the quarterback, misses his opportunity. If he just follows his pulling guard to the left, it's a walk-in touchdown. Easy for me to say from the couch. But it's there. Like, if you go watch the replay of that play from behind, and it's all over X to the Z, go watch that play from behind, and it's there. As someone who I hated the play, but it was there if you go back and watch it. J Mill, I was shocked Harbaugh didn't stall it at the goal line when they tied it at 20. Yeah, I think Jim's an excellent coach. He is. I think he's, as good as almost as good as you could hire for your college football or your NFL program. I don't think he's going to win championships, but he's got a shot now. But I've said that for a long time. So if Michigan wins the championship, then my long-standing take on Harbaugh that he doesn't run a button-down enough operation to win a title is going to be wrong. It's a big year any year anybody wins a national championship, but this is a huge year, either for Harbaugh to just fully solidify the legacy and return a national championship to Washington, or for DeBoer. I think a lot of these guys that win championships and like become legends win it really early. Next year, we're going to go to a 12-team playoff, and it's just going to become a lot harder to win a national championship. Getting in is the hard part now in the current format, but next year you're going to have maybe a little easier time getting in. You're going to have a much harder time getting all the way to the championship. The format next year, when we go to 12 teams, this is what it's going to be like. All right, here's the format for next year. You're going to have 12 teams. Your first round games, you're going to have 4 games in the first round, so 8 teams with 4 byes. Your first round games are going to be played on campus. You're going to have a Friday night game, and then you're going to have 3 Saturday games. This is going to be the week like leading into Christmas is how they're going to play this. So right before Christmas, you're going to have 4 games, 1 on Friday, 3 on Saturday. They're all going to be on campus, so teams are going to host at their own sites. Then on New Year's Eve, you're going to have 1 game. Next year, it's going to be a Tuesday, December 31st. You're going to have the fiesta. Then on Wednesday, New Year's Day, you're going to have 3 games. Okay. You're going to have the Peach Bowl early in the day. You're going to have the Rose Bowl in the middle of the day, and you're going to have the Sugar Bowl at night. You have 3 games that day. That'll be your quarterfinals. Then on January 9th, which will be a Thursday, you'll have a doubleheader of games. The Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl, and then the national championship will be on January 20th. So next year, the playoff is going to start before Christmas and go till basically what is the NFL's second round of the playoffs, right? Like the 49ers are going to play on January 20th or January 21st in the postseason this year. So the college football playoff is going to be long next year, and that'll be in Atlanta. So that's a gauntlet. Even if you don't have to play in the first round, you're going to have to win a quarterfinal game, a semifinal game, and a championship game. You have to win an extra game. So it's going to be harder to win a championship next year. And whoever wins it this year, I think it's going to kind of feel like they got there. So credit for that, but they kind of slid in before it changed. D'Anthony asked, thoughts on Washington running Johnson on 3rd down instead of taking a knee. Did not like it. It became worse when he got hurt. That was some Mario Cristobal level clock management, I thought, there at the end. What was the down and distance on that play? I mean, the one thing I would say for Kalen DeBoer is they go for the kill. They try to end the game consistently. Here we go. They go for it. I wonder. Where is that? False start. Where is this Washington drive? Penalty. So it was 3rd and 5. on the Texas 39. Yeah, I mean, I didn't like it, but I also think it was really that was very much in their DNA. The fact that he got hurt really hurt them because it stopped the clock. And I was watching I watched the regular broadcast for most of the game, and then I watched maybe it was ESPN2. It had like it was the broadcast that was the McAfee broadcast earlier, but it had Colt McCoy. I think Colt McCoy is really good, so I wanted to watch Colt McCoy. And they got, there should have been a lot less time than there was when Texas got the ball, but Dylan Johnson got hurt. They added 3 seconds. There were 50 seconds. It looked like there were going to be 15 or something. So it's 3rd and 5. You know, I, it would have been interesting if they had picked up 4 yards. They got no gain. If he picked up 4 yards, Washington would have had 4th down and 1 on the Texas 35-yard line. I want DeBoer might have gone for it in that spot, and just tried to end the game, which I know feels a little crazy instead of pinning him back, but that's just been his kind of thing, is he's gonna go for it in big spots, and he's gonna try and take the game. So I do wonder, and maybe by now he's explained it, I do think that he might have been thinking 4-down territory. It went about as bad as it could have gone. Adrian, it would be cool to see Jim get over the hump, like we waiting on Kyle too. Would you be rooting for Harbaugh? I was watching a few observations from my wife today. One was Alyssa, who loves sports and watches games with me all the time. One was it's kind of messed up that a team that got caught cheating gets to play in the national championship game. The other observation, this was a good one. I did not notice this. She said that when you look at the sideline, like Texas has the guys holding up not the guys who hold up the signs, but they have these guys that hold up these huge tarps. They just stand like this with a tarp, and then on the other side of the tarp is the guys signaling to the quarterback. She's like, those guys who hold up the tarps don't get to see the game. That's a good call. Like, they just stand there like this, back of a tarp, and it's all because of sign stealing. So it's I think a lot of people around college football are probably rooting for Washington and rooting against Michigan, in part because of that, maybe in large part because of that. But Daniel says glad Bama lost. I maybe this is prisoner of the moment. It feels to me like one of the best Final Four, not the games. I just thought coming in the matchups were so good because they felt so fresh, right? Michigan, Alabama in the Rose Bowl just feels fresh. Credit to Dabo for everything he did at Clemson, but I think a lot of people that the ratings reflected. People were a little worn out on Clemson, Alabama, basically some version of that every year. Oklahoma, and then Texas and Washington is very fresh. So it just felt like a very fresh Final Four, and then the games were great. So it would have been interesting. Whoever, I think Washington, Alabama against Saban. Like, I don't get tired of Saban, but Harbaugh and Michigan trying to break through again, and then Washington trying to break through is more. I think that is more interesting. So from that standpoint, I agree with you. Penix has a weird throwing motion, aka Phillip Rivers. That is one of the other criticisms. I've talked to Jeff Schwartz about this, and what he has told me is that, like, NFL people that he talks to think it is a negative that Penix basically doesn't use his lower body as much when he throws, or like, I'm not a quarterback guru. I'm no John Beck, but that he doesn't use his lower half as much. But man, he gets rid of the ball quick and he fires it. So it is kind of funky, but he throws a lot more spirals, I think. I think he throws more spirals. I think the ball comes out faster. I think part of what makes it funky is just he doesn't really step and turn into it. He just kind of fires all upper body. Penix is not falling to the 3rd round. I agree, but I think people are talking about him like he's a 2nd round pick, which that would surprise me. It would surprise me, even if the reports are that right now the NFL doesn't view him as a 1st round pick. I would still be surprised. You can get such worse value than Michael Penix at the end of the first round. That he plays quarterback, so he may be graded differently on somebody's big board. He may not be in the top 30 or 50, but he plays quarterback, so he's going to be more valuable than some running back you have graded ahead of him. I think Seattle. I think one of those teams would have to be interested. It could be a classic. Seattle moves back to the end of the first round and something and takes Michael Penix. Michael Penix will be a Raider. Well, I would not wish that upon him. I know he'd have Devontae, but I would not wish that upon him. Prediction on Harbaugh, on Jim's decision to come back to the league. I think he wants to come back. That's what I've heard. I think he does come back. I think the Chargers are the perfect place for him to go. He'd be great. The NFL would love him in LA. You add another star there. I think the Chargers desperately need him, right? They are. I'm not in LA. I don't live in LA, but LA people could tell me. If you're from LA, tell me. It feels like they are well down the list of priorities in Los Angeles. You got Justin Herbert. I think Harbaugh does a very good job of like elevating quarterbacks to a point, and then he does not elevate. Kind of like if you're not a blue chip guy, he can't elevate you beyond. He hasn't really had that guy. I think with Herbert, it would be a pretty great fit. Michigan could just hire the OC they got right now that filled in for Jim, who's clearly a very good coach, O-line coach. He's their O-line coach and he's their OC. You don't get that a lot. I think it's kind of a sweet. It's kind of a sweet combo. Would they have the money to pay him? Well, great question. I mean, they historically try to pinch pennies. I don't know that they have the cash because he's got so much money waiting for him at Michigan. Why hasn't he signed that deal? Now, maybe he hasn't signed the deal just because he thinks I'm not taking your contract, whatever it was, like $107 million. I'm not taking your contract until I play out the playoff. Because if I go to the championship game, I'm going to be worth more. If I win the championship, I'm going to be worth more. Here's the thing with Harbaugh. Harbaugh has the leverage with Michigan. So Michigan can try to give him a contract that says, okay, you're not allowed to talk to NFL teams for a year. But Jim can just wait. Jim can talk to NFL teams and then sign that contract. Like, what are they going to do? Play hardball with him? No. They did that with him like back a few years ago. They cut his salary. They put him on the hot seat, and he shoved it in their face. So he's got all the leverage. There's nothing they can do about it. And if he wants to flirt with NFL teams, he can flirt with NFL teams. If he wants to drag it out, he can drag it out. Michigan is a 4.5-point favorite in the national championship game. I think that's crazy. In one sense, it's understandable. If you're a bettor, I would take Washington +4. Just like you should have taken Washington +4 against Texas. Part of the reason has to be that those teams are just really public. That Texas is just a very, the public is going to bet Texas, and the public is going to bet Michigan. Let me see if I can find what was this game today where the money was where the money split was on. Where is this? I can't. How do I go back? It's not easy for me to find right now that I'm not gonna mess around and make you guys sit through it and see what the percentage was. But I'm guessing the percentage was. Here we go. Pro report. The old Action Network. Let's see. The Sharps are on Washington right now. Okay. The Sharps are on Washington for the Texas game. Here we go. The percentage of the bets, the percentage of money. All right. The percentage of the sorry, where'd this go? God damn it. Just had it. Sorry, everybody. Sit around and watch me. You don't even get to watch me scroll, just look at the side of my face. All right. So, wow. 59% of the bets and 67% of the money was on Washington. I expected more of the bets to be on Texas, to be honest. Just like I would expect more of the bets to be on Michigan. I would just think that you expose yourself if you make it like Texas -2.5 or Texas -1 or Washington -1 or 2, and then you've got all these Texas people betting on Texas because that's just what they're going to do because they've got a huge fan base. They'd be a public team, but this says that most of the bets were on Washington, like the public bet Washington and the sharps bet Washington. So that's interesting. Huh. I did not expect. I hadn't looked at that, but I did not expect that. So, yeah, I mean, Jim in Vegas would Jim and the Raiders would be excellent. My prediction is Penix goes to Atlanta at 10. All right, that would be a total departure from the NFL, from what everybody says, and I would understand it. Like, you take a guy that high with multiple knee injuries, multiple seasons, and now he's been healthy twice in a row. He is he'll turn 24 years old in May, so he'll be a 24-year-old rookie, which is old, but he's ready to roll. He's ready to go. So I don't think it's crazy. I mean, he is just deathly accurate. He is so accurate. He's tough. He's a leader. I thought he handled, I guess most guys do, but I thought he should have won the Heisman. He handled not winning the Heisman well. I never understood why it was bad to have good scouting to figure out the signals. High school scouting does it all the time. Why is it frowned upon in college? You can do it. You're just not allowed to film from within the stadium. You have to do it based on what you see on TV, and that's why they cover it up when they're on that home sideline. You can cover it up, so you're allowed to steal signals. You just can't do it off of anything but the game, but the tape that's available, and you can't go into the stadium with a cell phone and just film it. I'm with you. I think it's like I'm so tired of all their signs. New Year's resolution: get more sleep. Gets ham alert. I'll start next week. I mean, it's already Tuesday basically, so it's a Monday vacation day. It's a short week. Everyone at your work, whatever it is that you do, is kind of mailing it in this week, so you're fine. Don't worry about that. Yeah, I just go to Action Network and you can click on Pro Report and you can see it all there. I mean, I pay. I don't think that part of it's free. I pay for that part. So, Braylon Trice, another stud. He was a monster today. He was. Yeah, I thought they showed Arch for a second, Arch Manning on the sideline, and you could tell the whole broadcast was like, "Oh, we didn't get Arch." Even I was like, "We didn't get Arch." Oh, Ewers is just. I mean, he made some really good throws today, but they did some other stuff that was just their offensive line felt like was kind of a mess at times. I could see Belichick having the opportunity to take Caleb and taking Penix instead. Where is Belichick going to be taking Caleb? Well, I mean, he's not going to be in New England. I mean, it seems like that's done. Would he stay and take Caleb? Carolina or Chicago's got what is Chicago? Are they going to keep Fields? It would. I wouldn't do it, but it would be pretty bold if they kept Fields. It'd be really interesting if you had Chicago, who is the holder of the Panthers pick, keeping their quarterback. You've got New England. You would think right now they're 4-12. I'm just going like what the draft order would be right now. You would think they would take a quarterback. You got Arizona, they would not take a quarterback. You got Washington 4-12, they would take a quarterback. So right now, if the Bears were to keep Fields, you would have 2 of your top 4 teams in the draft not drafting a quarterback. Now, the Bears would trade that pick if they were gonna keep Fields, you would think. And then you would have somebody else drafting a quarterback, but it could be a pretty weird dynamic if Chicago decides to do that. I mean, they were chanting for him, but yeah, Giants are 5-11. Tennessee, they'd be in the mix. I mean, there are some good teams that, like, the Jets wouldn't draft a quarterback if they end up, wherever they are, there's going to be quarterbacks around. Nix or Daniels, obviously Caleb, Drake May. Cam Ward entered the draft today. I don't know if you guys follow that story. Cam Ward is Washington State's quarterback, who, when he transferred to Washington State a couple of years ago, he was a guy that just immediately intrigued a lot of people, NFL people, because he's really athletic, really skilled. Had, prolific numbers. Was 4th in the nation in passing this year. Put up big passing numbers last year. 25 touchdowns, 7 picks this year. But I think there's probably, there's a little bit good dude. Like, I talked to him at Pac-12 Media Day and really liked him. His parents are both coaches. He sponsors his parents' basketball team that they coach. There may be some, just maturity stuff, just general, nothing crazy, but he's a really good prospect. Like, if you told me Cam Ward went in the first round, I mean, athletically he could. Like, there are guys that are much worse prospects that go in the first round. Feels like maybe a second rounder. I'm surprised he didn't go to a big time school and get a bunch of money, like Florida State. DJ Uiagalelei went there today. So Cam Ward's another guy in the mix. So it is a loaded quarterback draft. Flav asked, were you surprised as I was that Harbaugh didn't throw 3 straight fades on the goal line at the end? Yes. Texas loved the fade ball. Ugh. God, that play is, when it works, it's like, all right, cool. But I hate that. The second I see that quarterback drop back, I much prefer like the back shoulder pylon throw. Like, give me that one. I love that throw much more than the over the top fade ball. The one the Texas guy caught was really an impressive catch. Commandos will probably end up with Caleb. Harbaugh, proud parents. Jim in a bowl. John, a 1 seed. A few years ago, I went to a football game at Michigan, and I'm walking through the parking lot, and I see the Harbaughs, the parents, getting a ride on the golf cart, or like they're standing around the golf cart. They're about to get a ride. So I just start talking to them, and we're like across the parking lot, and I was there covering the game. It was Michigan, Oregon State. It was Michigan, Oregon State. I went to 2 games that day. I went to Michigan, Oregon State. I was doing a thing for the Pac-12 Network where they sent me to 2 games in the same day. They sent me and a producer, and Candace and I flew. We went to, we drove into Ann Arbor. I went and got a turkey sandwich at Zingerman's because everyone said you got to go to Zingerman's Deli. So even though it was like 7 a.m., I went there for a turkey Reuben with like the Russian dressing. The coleslaw was excellent. So we do Michigan. So I see the Harbaughs. They're just hanging out by this golf cart where somebody clearly is going to drive them. And so I'm talking to Jack, his dad. I'm like, hey, Bay Area Niners, blah, blah, blah. We start talking Niners. He's like, you want to ride? He's just like Jim, like has that same look. I was like, yeah, I want to ride. So he gave me a ride to the stadium in Jack Harbaugh's golf cart. He wasn't driving it. It was very friendly. Michigan beat Oregon State that day. Then Candace and I, the producer, we hop in the car. We drive to East Lansing from Michigan State, Oregon that night. Michigan State just pulled it out. Vernon Adams, the quarterback for Oregon, missed a downfield throw. He was playing hurt, but missed a throw that might have won the game or at least tied the game. The honorary captain that day for Michigan State and at least East Lansing at night's pretty awesome. The honorary captain was Draymond Green, and they brought Draymond out as the honorary captain, and he's wearing this like Spartan helmet, with the big nose piece, and he's got a sword, and the place is going nuts. I mean, this is prime, you know, this is primo Warriors time, and he was a huge deal, and the place was going bananas. It was pretty sweet. The Washington receivers are legit. They are. I mean, Jalen Polk was a Texas Tech transfer. Jalen McMillan's their guy. Roma Dunze's their guy. They really are. Penix is a transfer. Dylan Johnson's a transfer. They got some transfers. On offense, they're a pretty homegrown team, and it's pretty special. Like as bad as it was post Chris Peterson, they had the COVID year, and then they go 4-8, and they got to fire their coach. They've got like a sign line incident and all this stuff. It was terrible. It was terrible. And then they hired Kalen DeBoer, and now they've won 21 straight games. Jamal Armstrong asks, "Have you watched much of Will Johnson this year? I like the matchup with him and the wide receivers, mainly Dunze." I've not watched a lot of them. He was a big timer. I just know he's a cornerback for Michigan, big time. I mean, they highlighted him at the front of the broadcast on the Michigan game today, and he's like a freshman All-American guy, a major recruit in the 22-20. I think he's a sophomore. He's a true sophomore. I'm pretty sure, right, Jamal? I'm pretty sure he's a true sophomore, early, and I think he's young. I think he's kind of young. Oh, maybe he didn't reclassify. He just enrolled early. So, big NIL guy, I think. But I haven't watched him a ton. But yeah, I mean, this is the kind of game where, true sophomore. It's the kind of game where you can you make a name for yourself, and the same goes the other way. Like if you're a Dunze, you can get a lot of credit. What's my favorite college stadium? Michigan is Michigan's pretty awesome just because it's huge, and Ann Arbor is just an awesome college town. But I don't have I went to A&M once, and that was incredible. It might have to be A&M because that place actually swayed. They lock arms like this, and they sway back and forth, and you can see the stadium, and you can feel the stadium move. And the night before the game, that was a great trip. Me and Ryan Reggiani went bar hopping through College Station. That was a good time. We went to a place with I don't know. I bought t-shirts like 3 different bars that night. But we went to Yell practice the night before. It's like at midnight on Friday night. They fill like one side of the stadium, and you might have seen clips of it because it's pretty cheesy. And they practice their calls, their cheers for the next day. That was an experience. Like, I think it's a little silly, but I give them credit. They're dedicated to the game. I would love to go to West Virginia. Would love to go to LSU. Haven't been to either of those. Went to Rutgers. Rose Bowl's awesome. Washington is Pac-12. Oregon, Utah is Utah's an incredible atmosphere, very underrated. Washington is as beautiful as everybody says for people that have been there. Florida, no bad seats in the stadium. It's funny you say that, Spencer. Like, I was watching them this year thinking, I've watched them a lot, obviously, over the years, but I compared it to the Arizona Cardinals Stadium in the way that they've got like these walls that it just looks like they find a way to make it feel kind of tighter, even though it's big. So I believe that'd be on the list. What else? Am I missing any? I was yeah. I mean, I'd say Michigan, A&M, UW with just an honor. Oh, you know what? The other one that's sneaky. It's not like on my top tier. Colorado in like September when it's beautiful out is awesome. Gorgeous. Great, great atmosphere. Haven't been to Bama. What's funny? I've not been to Lincoln, even though I lived there for a year. My dad was in the Air Force. We were in Omaha. I was a Cornhusker fan, like in the '90s. I loved Tommy Frazier. I was a I was a Nebraska Cornhusker fan, and but I never went to a game. But I remember Matt Davidson catching that deflected ball in the back of the end zone, whatever year that was. UW scenery, 10 out of 10. Yeah, I'm talking atmosphere. And part of it for me is just like country music. I want I want to sing country. I want to be there for Country Roads at the end of West Virginia, and then I want to be there for Colin Baton Rouge when they play Garth Brooks during warm-ups at LSU. It's actually those two places. That's the reason I want to go to them. I went to Lubbock this year, and they're doing a big remodel on half the stadium in Lubbock, and that was a really fun. I mean, it's not on par with the biggest places, but Lubbock was really fun. But that week, because I called it was a UCF Texas Tech game on FS1 at the end of the year. It was a really good game. I had a good game, but that week we thought we might go to West Virginia too. So I was kind of jacked, and everyone else in the crew was like, you got to fly to Pittsburgh and then you got to drive. I was like, I don't know. I'd be pretty fired up to go to West Virginia. But we didn't. We went to Lubbock, and Lubbock was a good time. I like their coach too, Joey McGuire. Unfortunately, long winning streaks normally end in playoff games. Do they? D Daddy, can I get a shout out? My man, I've been watching Washington since 91. I've lived there when I was young. Now I live in an alley in Phoenix, Arizona. Today is my wife and her boyfriend's anniversary. Can I get a shout out? Yeah, sure. Shout out. West Virginia hasn't had much success since Clint Trickett and Will Greer. I just blame Dana Holgerson for giving us that push pass. Deebo Samuel scored a touchdown on it on Sunday. It's a handoff that gets ruled a passing touchdown. Notre Dame, haven't been there, but yeah, that'd be on the list for sure. What about Fresno State? Oh yeah, on a good night, Boise's in town, big game, absolutely. All right, it's a good little impromptu jam. Good start to the new year, everybody. Thanks for no, I think Washington's winning it all. I picked Washington a month ago. I'm sticking with the pick. I only feel better about it today. Penn State haven't been. Would love to. That'd be on the list. Virginia Tech on a Thursday. I mean, all these places are just, God, you're making me wish the college football season wasn't about over. UV asks, are you looking forward to a Sam Darnold masterclass we're about to watch on Sunday? Yeah, I saw a clip today. And I got to ask my guy, JB Long. But I saw a clip today of McVay basically basically said the same thing Shanahan did, which is like, oh, we'll have to see who we're going to play. So I don't know. The Rams may rest everybody. The Rams might have to. So well, that'll be Darnold versus Wentz. Oh, yeah, good interview with Dwayne Kuiper. How great was he? How about that story he told about he got traded to the San Francisco Giants the same day the Niners played the Browns? He was a Browns fan. He was supposed to be at the game, and he was going to catch the team flight back because he was boys with the Browns head coach. Then he got traded and didn't go to the game. Feels like Chris Conley's going to ball out this week with extended reps. Yeah, it feels like a Ronnie Bell game. We'll see. I mean, you can only play. Shanahan went through it. Like, there's only so many guys you can rest. So, all right. All right. That's that. Okay. That's it for that. Thanks for the impromptu New Year's Day stream, college football stream. I'm glad you guys love college football like I love college football. I wasn't sure. We do mostly NFL and Niners stuff on this channel. I'm like, oh, well, people want to watch a college football post-game stream. But you did. So thanks. And we'll have a week, everybody. Have a great year. Have a great year. Bye, everybody, and especially Mike. Later.